where a trend change is. Okay, I want to show you one right here, for instance. All right. Now, before this ever even does anything, you've got to know where the trend is. Okay. First off, just like I teach all the time, you have a thrust up. All right. You have a little retrace. Now, keep in mind, this is still a downtrend at the point, but when did it start changing to an actual uptrend? Well, basically, even right through here it did, but let's just go up here instead. And then see you got this higher low right through here. Now, that is what we call an Elliott 1, okay? So in other words, you've got the little thrust retrace on an Elliott 1 at the time, which doesn't have to go very high or anything like that. You're just trying to get the trend break. But you've also got to realize, though, that when you draw on these charts, that they're kind of self-fulfilling prophecies too, because this is your line in the sand, long short, right there. Okay, so if you happen to get this trade, like let's say at 8:30, you might not have traded this anyway because that's so close to the open. But even if you didn't trade this trade, you should be able to see, though, where it could possibly change trends. And just remember, just like looking at that little swing type chart that I've showed quite often, and I'll show it again tonight if y'all want to see it. But basically what you're looking at, the way we trade, is these constant trend changes, from a stair stepping up to a stair stepping down. Tried to change trends, couldn't, but could you have gotten, even at 720, could you have still gotten the move where it broke your line of sand long short? See it right there? Low, high, lower, low, broke it. That's good for 10 ticks. Okay. So this particular trade, what I consider to be a trend change type trade, is just huge. And if you miss them, you got to wait for the little retrace. And the retrace can be more dangerous simply because of the fact that you don't know how deep they're going to retrace. Okay. But you do know that when you see stair stepping up, to give an example, okay, we'll just do it like it's on the chart here. All right, when this is stair stepping up, like so, and let's say it just keeps stair stepping up and you're fine on the trade, right? So where is your line in the sand long short on this chart right here? Even if I was to draw a line, where would I put it? I'll go ahead and start moving it up. Is it here? Is it here? Now that would be what I would consider my conservative break. This is actually your break right here, though. So if they do anything like this, always look to the left to trade the right. Let's say they come down and they really try to check it, but they just can't quite take it. Then that would obviously be considered a higher low, and you would expect it to very possibly head up. Maybe not, except in more of a zigzag formation, because that's what they do. But you would expect something like this, to where it would actually go ahead and head up and take out that top. And then when it did, see where this high, this low, this higher high is? Then this is your line in the sand long short. Okay? Now, line in the sand long short can make a world of difference in your withdrawals from Apex, Take Profit Trader, your own account, things like that. Because basically the first time into mid-band after a trend change is a very, very viable trade. Okay? But you've got a trend change first. So in other words, let's say that this trend change, but this is at 8:30. Okay? This is at the open of the market. So if this bounces around mid-band, you could obviously look for a trade, right? But if it doesn't and it breaks this, then you would be ready and willing for a short, okay? Because it would be no longer heading up if it breaks this line right here. This is exactly where I've got it drawn, okay? And this is going to make a world of difference, believe me, in your bottom line, because it happens over and over and over. And as fast as we look at little zigzags, it happens quite a bit. Okay, and we just got to be, smart enough to get those. So you just watch your chart. You're long here, for instance, but if it takes out like line 7 or even a little swing, you got to get out of the trade, right? We teach that all the time. You don't want to just hold on to a trade. What if that's a lower high than that? And it comes down a little bit further, you'd definitely be out by now, wouldn't you? Okay, so you might be looking for a mid-band type trade setup. You could box this right here. Now, one thing I also watch for when I'm trading is when you get this little bit of a momentum of a spell, if this was really going to truly head up, you really would start kind of stair stepping back up. But if you do break this, this would be considered a trend change. Okay. Now you could still have a phantom. Okay. And a lot of our people do look for those phantoms, but keep in mind when they break line in the sand long short, that's an area that you want to really watch. Now, if this would have just shot up, and let's say it didn't have this little bip up and pull back, and it just shot straight up, well, then this wouldn't be a line. But anytime they form, what we call the lightning swings, this is actually a line in the sand long short. Okay. And if you can catch these line in the sand long shorts, You know, let's say that your goal for the day, and let's just make a real easy goal for a lot of people to hit. $500 is what? $2,500 a week times 52 weeks? Well, if you just multiply it times 50 and take a 2-week vacation, that's still over $125,000. Okay, that's pretty good income. Okay, now it may not be enough for you. Possibly you need to make a few more trades, but I want to show you how you can actually make $500 pretty easily with line and standalone short trades. And if you miss them, then you got to wait for what? The pullback. Okay, but keep in mind that I always say we, when I'm drawing on the charts in the room, I'm drawing it for a reason. I'm drawing a line in the standalone short area. So if they break them, can you short? If this breaks this area right here, something like this right here, you don't want to take it if it just barely breaks it. I don't. I like it for it to break like a little box, for instance, you know, maybe 4 or 5 ticks, 6 ticks. You could use band trader there. Okay. And if it bounces out of it and you box it in, you might be able to go long. If it breaks the box, then guess what? You've got a line in the standalone short trade. Okay. And it really is that simple. Just to give an example, like right here, if you weren't long on this trade at this point right here, like say on a phantom, well then couldn't you just watch for a low, a high, a higher low, a higher high, and then get a higher low again and box it in for a long? Because what is that doing? It's stair stepping up. What is this doing right now? It was stair stepping up. So let's say that you got this trade at 8:30. I don't advise it because that's 1 minute after the open, but let's just say that you did get it. That's $250 of your $500. Okay. If it bounces here, let's just draw another box just in case it bounces. Let's just say if it was to take out this little resistance right across here, that we go long. Okay. So we're looking for it to bounce here, if at all possible, and stair step up. Let's see what it does. See, that's actually starting to head down. It broke line in the standalone short. See? So could you, at this point now, put your stop just literally inside the box, or at least at the line? And yes. Now, because if they were to go back at all, let's see if they did. I see they're trying to retrace a little bit. Now there's another good entry. And notice how they know where you draw your boxes. Isn't that amazing? I mean, I draw this in the room all the time, and that was a $250 trade right there. 2 contracts, $250. Okay, but let's say that you're just a scalper that says, you know, I don't really trust 2 contracts because it can get me, and it does often. Then do a trade like that, but only scalp it with 1. So then instead you got a $125 trade. Okay, if this rolls out of this box right here that we just drew clearly, like so, then short it again. Let's see what it did. That looks like a down bar. I'd be shorting it again. And you got another 10 ticks. So there's right there, even with 1 contract, is 125 and 125. Okay, so you really only lack 2 more trades. But if you did 2 contracts, you just got 250 and 250. Then if you do like our family does and like lots of our traders do and clone that little puppy, then you just made $500 times, I don't know, 5, 10 accounts. Now that's what you could call one and done and not even have to worry. You notice in the room that a lot of times, you know, I'll call trades on ESI, I'll call trades on gold, I call trades on oil, but I don't trade all of them, frankly, because I've got to watch them for everybody else, but also because I just flat don't care. You know, you got to get to that point where, you know, you're not just having to fear of missing out running chart to chart to chart to chart, because then you're not diagnosing them. Because if you diagnose in real time, you can make good money. Okay, let's see what this actually did here. Let's just see. And we'll draw our line in the standalone short, by the way. Okay, notice that you have a low, you got a lower low. That's your line in the standalone short right now, right there. Everybody sees that? So what if they broke it and went up? Well, you'd change trends, wouldn't you? Let's see what it did. Still heading down so far. There's your line in the standalone short. There's your line in the standalone short. Everybody sees that, right? I'm going to remove these lines so that you can clearly see. So let me ask you a quick question. If that's your line in the standalone short right there, then would you be ready just in case they decided to break it up to actually go long? Because the whole idea of line in the standalone shorts is that that's where it's going to change trends. That's where you'll get leg 1. Okay? Now, again, so that you don't just get faked into these silly things, see, this is actually just under midband. So what if you put a box just above midband, like band 5? That's a band 4 to band 5. Okay? We don't know if it's going to head down further, and we may get another lower line in the standalone short. Okay? Let's see what it did. See, it looks like it's getting a little bit of a bottom. Okay? Now, let me ask you a quick question. is this still heading down if it takes out this swing? Yes or no? Just the way I drew it a little bit ago, is that actually still heading down if it breaks that? It's not, right? Now, if it was to roll right here with a lower high, then yes, it is. You see what I mean? So we don't know what this next bar is going to do, but we do know that if it takes this out, that they're probably heading up, but they could fake you too, okay? So if you're the type that wants to take the actual breakout, you've got to look for these little higher lows and higher highs. Let's go ahead and draw lightning. Okay, let's see what it does. It did roll. That's a little iffy right there. I don't like that. And see, this did actually touch your line in the San Long short. Now, what did I say in the room this morning? Anybody that was in there, you clearly heard this. I said, and this was in the case of a long, if you're getting a long trade, you're going to want a higher low. If you're going to get a short trade, you want a lower high. Now, when they start playing around this swing right here, that's when they're going to change trends on you, and that's where this won't work. Okay, now if this would have rolled without touching that line, I'd be a lot more of a chance to take that trade. Okay, but let's say that you did take it. Okay, and that bar went down, that bar went up, that bar went down, that bar went up. That's kind of getting iffy to me, because if they're going to head down, what do? They usually roll over. See how that does? Just rolled over. Let's see what it did. It's a bar down. That's a bar up. That's a bar up. That's breaking line in the San Long short. Everybody see that? So let me ask you a quick question. Could you box this? And remember, this is when Charles was alive. This was one of his favorite trades. And he would just jump up and down for joy if he knew I had built Band Trader, because he would box that in. Okay. Now, could it roll over here and just fake you a little bit? Yes, because it barely took out the low. Okay. Now, for a conservative trader, here's a low, a high, and a much lower low. So this is line in the San Long short for a very conservative trader. Okay. Now, if this breaks and kisses anywhere around this line, I'd probably take it long. Okay. Simply because of the fact it's breaking line in the San Long short. Okay. That's what you're looking for, is that break like this right here. Let's say, for instance, you had been heading down. Okay. Which you had, and I'll try to draw this real quick. And then let's say it just kind of plummeted. But let me ask you a question. Let's go ahead and bring this down a little bit so that it's more even with that, because that's what we've got. And then we'll bring this. Let me see if I can do this just a second. Because we've got to match it to the way it is on the chart. So let me remove that. And let's do more like this right here. Keep in mind, this is just kind of playing with swings and everything, but this is what happens in real life on your charts too. And that's a little closer, but not quite what I've got over here on the left. But on this particular chart right here, you're looking at a high, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, higher low. So if it takes this out right here, they're kind of heading up. But when you see this right here, see where it barely, you pretty much put your line like that. And then you get your trade. Okay. And it's got to get a higher low, obviously, also. So let's look at where we're at on our little chart. See, that was your initial break that we saw. And then we drew our line in San Long short, and look at that. See there? We had that drawn in the room this morning, by the way. So this is actually a recap of what really happened. But see how it happens? You know, it just does it in just a beautiful moment. But you can always tell when they've gone from these lightnings down, like so. See your low, your high, your lower low. They start testing that area right there. What are they doing? They're trying to head up. Because when they're not heading up, what do? They constantly stair step down until they quit stair stepping down. Okay? And they, you know, the thing is, they just don't give enough of this to where you just get these monster moves like there was a little bit more in the past. But when you get in these trades, you've got to kind of get out. Like if you got in this midband here and it starts stair stepping, and then it starts stair stepping up, get out of the trade. You know, see where it starts stair stepping up, low, high, higher, low, higher, high right through there. It's not conducive to still heading down unless you use your bigger swing. See, like if you draw it like this. So you have a ABC, which is what I like to look for personally. And then your stop is right up in through there and you still held it. But who wants to hold it all the way to mid-band? You don't have to. That's 24 ticks. Okay? So let's look at that again. Let's see, that's at 830-ish. And see, that turned out to be a pretty good little trade. See there? That's how you get those trend changes right there. Now, if I could actually get, without getting into just totally striped shirt look all the time, I would have our programmer program this to where it would literally watch for this and change to where we could get, for instance, with, like, let's say that you come up here and test this area and you pull back and you finally take it out. If we could get a higher low and then break that line again, take it long. But even conservatively, taking line 5 did a pretty good job too. Okay, and that's what we're looking for all the time. Okay, we're looking to get, and by the way, we just got our $500, didn't we? So let me ask you a quick question. Could you quit? Could you quit for the day? You could, right? Okay, now let's look. Real quick though, let's take the lightning off the chart. This is another area that I think traders have a little bit of difficulty with, including myself. I'm not going to admit that, you'd be afraid to admit that I have the same thing, because you want to kind of hold these trades thinking, wow, this thing's heading up like crazy. But you notice when they thrust up and they start losing any momentum whatsoever, they just pull back. So when I say, for instance, you got a high, you got a low, same high, where would your stop be? Right there. So your high, your low, they're trying to take a high, they haven't yet. Let's see if they do. Not really. Not really. Maybe. Nope, still didn't take the high. So I'd get out of that trade if it took out 56.9375. Okay, and you'll see me draw that in the room. Now, would this be a, quote, line in the sand long short, yes or no? No. You know why? Because you didn't have this look to it at all. See this part right up here? Let's draw it just a little bit. Let's go ahead and go to this one, that's fine. See how that's getting that high right there? This low right here. This high right here. And I'll refix that too, because it's not at the bottom of the bar. See how it's doing that right there? Is that a line in the sand long short? You're not stair stepping. Now, could you short that if you wanted to? It is a break of basically a channel, but it's very, very risky. But I would use that to get out of the trade myself, and we're not looking for another trade until we get, like, well, maybe a Fibonacci. So if they go up here like this, I'm trying to get at the point where I get to know where my trades are. You know, for instance, if I get out of this here, where's my next trade? Well, with a nice thrust up like that, I'd be looking for a 38, and I'd be looking for a 50. Let's go ahead and bring the line up there. And would I be looking for a 61? Probably not, because it's way down in the shadow. That's usually a trend change. So I'd be looking for this trade here. I'll go ahead and draw it. I'd be looking for this trade right here also, but cautiously, because 38% is not my favorite trade. Okay, so let's say you got your stop at 56.9375. Let's see if they take you. Looks like it. You're out. Okay, so you're out of the trade. Now, when you're out of this trade, you got to decide, okay, usually as a rule, if you get a full trend change with stair-stepping mid-band, you're going to get a leg 1, which you got. You're going to get a leg 2, which you haven't got yet, and you're going to get a leg 3. Now, how do you know that when that happens? Because that's the way Elliott's pretty much work. Now, do they always do that? You got to look to the left to trade the right. You got to see where your highs are. So your high over here, your low, your lower high, your lower low. This would have to break up to ever do that, but it still could easily do a 1, 2, 3. So we're looking for either 38.2, not my favorite, or 50, and not 61 because it's too low. So let's see what it did. That's in the 38. It did bounce there. If you took it, I definitely wouldn't let it go back in the little box. So let's see if it did. And if it does, you're just out. That's pretty much out. Okay, so let's see if we get a 50 instead. Still bouncing out of that little box. I guess you could have stayed with it for, I don't think you got 10 ticks yet though. Nope, see there? So that trade would have scratched. You went back in the box. This is your 50% right there. So that's right at that 50% right there. So let's box this one in and see if we can get something. you're out of the box. So you're going long on that. You'd probably have to put your stop. Let's see. I don't want it to go to 61, but I'd probably put my stop at line 1 for right now just to see. Yeah, you're good to go. And then you can put your stop right up here. So with that one, do you have 10 ticks yet? Not quite. Make me a little nervous. That's good there. It's a little higher low. There you go. All right, you got 10 ticks. So that turns out to be easily your $500, right? If you did 125, this one scratched, that one was 125, that one was 125. So you got scratch, 125, 125, 125, and this one you got 125 and 125 there. So yeah, you'd be at your $500 easily. That's one contract, by the way. But not if you're just thinking, wow, you know, this went long here, so you go a long way up here, and then they take it down, and you go short, and then they bounce it, and you go, you know, you're short, and you see what I mean? You gotta trade. If you're going to trade the Viper way, you got to trade pretty much the way these little swings set up. Now, you're not going to always be right. Don't get me wrong on that, because you know, fast movements and things like that can make a big difference of what's happening on your screen. Okay, when it gets fast, just stand down for a while. You don't have to just keep trading. Okay. So does everybody see how you can see where those line and sand long shorts are? I mean, you can look at any chart and you can see it. You know, it's just not that hard to do. Let's see how this little trade worked out if you had a runner. So I'm going to just draw lightning 2 and see how we can stay with this trade if you had a runner. All right, so let's see here. Higher low. Higher low. Higher low. Barely wicking it. Bodies of the candles are staying with it. You could have your stop right through there. Higher low again, higher low again. So as this keeps stair-stepping up, you just simply keep moving your stop accordingly. Now, this doesn't mean that if you're up nicely from like that trade call, and I believe that was called in the room this morning too, because I called a phantom, and that was a true phantom. I think it was a shallow phantom, but still a phantom. All right. So can you tell by looking at the chart, you know, where your line in the sand long short is right now? Anybody? To stair step down, it would have to take out that 50, what is that, 56.97 and a quarter at least. And that would be very aggressive because that would be way above mid-band, so I probably wouldn't do it. But let's see what happens. Another higher low. A little sloppy, but still another higher low series. Bounced right off support. If I remember right, I called that trade too. That was a mid-band trade. But see how you can see where they thrust, they pull back. There was your line in sand at the time. They thrust, they pull back, they get higher, they get a little higher low, a little higher high, a little higher low. And pretty soon you can see where to put your stops with these swings, see? And if they go kind of sloppy like that, you've always got to look left to trade the right until it takes out. See, like this right here, for instance. See how this had a high, a low, a higher high? So where is your stop in a case like this right now? Right there. So then you look and you see, okay, it barely took that out. And it took it out. Now here's your stop right there. See how that works? And over and over and over, you can tell where to put these. See how that held? Okay. And I don't think you can see this on any other charts besides these right here. I really don't. Because I would have a hard time seeing that on a 15-minute chart with stochastics, RSI, FBI, CSI, and all that. No way. You know, there's just not a way to see that. So keep in mind that you can always draw where the line in the sand long short is. Okay, let me just get rid of everything and I'll show you. We'll get rid of this. Okay, so this has been heading up, 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 up. So let me ask you a question. If you've had a 1, 2, big 3 pullback, starts, you know, kind of start stair stepping, do you really want to continue? That's a big leg right there. This is a nice pullback to a perfect 50%. And then this is another leg up that we're seeing right now. Okay. And even up to here, because right now I see the line in the sand long short right there. Okay. If it takes out this top, it'll be right here. So let's see what it does. A little higher low. Broke it. So let me ask you a quick question. Could you have shorted that? That is a trend change. Now, what if it's a phantom? Well, remember one thing, phantoms A lot of times our trend changes, but that trend changed right there in my personal opinion because it broke the line in the sand long short. Let me just draw it for you so you'll see it. So you got a high here at the time. You got a higher high right there. You got a low, you got a lower high. See, that's starting to tell you they're waning. But anyway, that's your line in the sand long short right there. Everybody sees that, right? So could you be ready to take that trade just like we did the other one over here to the long side and then to the short side? So there's probably another $125. Let's see if it gets it. Yeah, it easily got it. See, that's a $125 trade right there. Okay? So if you learn to see on your charts where your line in the sand long short is and be ready for these trend changes, you'll do a lot better in your trading. And also keep in mind one other thing too. You can quit trading after a while. You know, that's like 8:45. That's an hour and 15 minutes after I open the room. Okay, that's a decent trade. All right, you want to see if we can get one more? Let's pretend you missed that one. Well, no, Dewey, on your question there, what I'm teaching tonight is more the line in the sand long short to watch for those trend changes. Yes, the conservative way on this is to wait for a pullback. Now, keep in mind where they break, just like this right here. If you draw your line, let's draw the line right there. If it gets anywhere near that, could you short it? What if it's just a big Fibonacci from way down here? Well, then it'll change trends again. But let's see if it kisses that line. Didn't. That's a mid-band trade. What do you think? First time in a mid-band after a trend change, I'd probably jump on that. Now, keep in mind, though, that you can always wait, but first time in a mid-band after a trend change is a pretty good quality trade. So let's just take it and put a stop at line 5, just in case that we're wrong. Okay, let's see what it does. There's 10 ticks again. Okay, so, and that took out the low, barely. Let's see if it takes it out further. Yeah, it took it out a little bit further. So where's your line in sand long short on this chart? Anybody? Well, right this very second, it's at 5,700.5. Let's see if it holds at that. You want to? Let's just see if it holds. This is also one right here, very, very aggressive. Let's see what it does. Kissed it and headed up. So you draw on your charts. That's another 10 ticks, by the way. I think that was called in the room this morning too, or at least I had the lines drawn on the chart. I try to keep up with lines on every chart. If you ever see that, you know, hey, where's my line in the sand? Just, you know, to verify that you're getting it also, be sure and hit me up with it, okay? All right. Where's your line in the sand long short on this chart right now then? Well, right this very second, it's right there. Let's see what it does. Beautiful mid-band, beautiful mid-band. Put your stop right there, beautiful mid-band. Let's see if it goes up. Your target would be right, I'd say about right there. That's resistance. Let's see if it gets it. Wouldn't be 10 ticks though. And if it goes up any higher, right up there. Bang some coin, that's a lower high. That concerns me when they don't take that out. I'd probably put my stop on that trade if it wasn't moving quick to right across there. Let's see what it does. Out. You could stay in with the wick. It did do the body there, but I don't know. I think I'd still take it out. Yeah, definitely. So let me ask you a quick question. Where's your line in sand long short on this chart? You have a high, a low, a lower high. It's not very much lower. So then I look to the left to trade the right also. So I'm going to say, let's take these off. I'm going to say that this is your line in the sand long short, conservative, high, low, higher high. And over here, I'm going to say high, low, lower high. This is your line in the sand long short. And probably box it at line 3 to 4. And let's see if it breaks or not. Now keep in mind you're out of that trade over here. It's breaking down. What do you think? To me, that's breaking down. That's breaking line in the sand long short. And keep in mind, you're going to miss some of these. There's not a question about it. And if you do miss them, then wait for the retrace, because they will retrace first time in the mid-band. You know, for instance, if you don't trust this trade right here where it broke this, that's an aggressive entry. That's a conservative entry. Both entries are valid. See what the next bar does. Up bar, let's see what the next bar does. Down bar, you're good. Easily good, 10 ticks. Okay? That, that hit me like almost an epiphany years ago when Charles and I used to teach this. Why we started calling that line in the sand long short was beyond me, but it really is when you think about it. It's the line in the sand. Like when you were a kid, remember when you played Red Rover, send someone over? Or you drew that line in the sand and you dared somebody to pass it? See what I mean? So that's what we're really looking at. We're looking at, hey, this is it. You don't want to go past this point right here. Now keep in mind that we didn't even look at a phantom trade on this trade because of the fact that it broke line in the sand long short. Now usually as a rule, if it's going to be a phantom, you kind of want something like this. Let me just show you what I like to see. And keep in mind it's going to be zigzag, but let's say I want a big move like this. And then I want to stair step down something like this. And that's your phantom. And then that's a legitimate trade, okay? Because you're expecting a 1, 2, 3. But this is a 1, say you're high, you're low, you're high, you're high. So they broke this. So you don't really expect this. Where your phantoms work out great is when they take out everything to the left on a long and vice versa to a short. So other than that, you're looking at these trend changes like this. Now let's go ahead and see if we can get another trade. We'll draw our Fibonacci's. I'll draw it from right here. We don't know where this is going yet, so I'm going to just keep drawing it. That might be it. All right, so with a thrust like that, I would expect not a 38. I don't like a 38 on that kind of a move. Now keep in mind this could still roll over, so we're diagnosing something we can't see the other side of, just like we're trading in real. So I would expect this to come up to at least the 50, which is right there. And I don't like the 38. And this is kind of a little sweet spot area that this should roll over. If it takes out the low, we'll draw it again. Took out the low, so guess what? We draw it again. Now this goes away. Low, high, lower, low, right? Let's see what we get. Now we got to draw our fib again, but it's from down here. So now I would be looking for a 38 because that's a pretty good size move. So let's just do that. Look for a 38, and we'll look for a 50 would be all the way up into pretty close to phantom. So this would be my little sweet spot for a trade. But I really don't want it taking this out. So let's watch it, because that could be a trend change if it does. Now this is looking pretty good because that bar rolled and that's a lower high. Okay, everybody sees that, right? This is key to watching this, okay? Now what I like to see personally is I don't want to take that out. Low, high, lower, low. So if they take this out, this is kind of off bet now, because if they take this out, they're heading up. That's our line in the sand long short. So let's see if it rolls here. I'm going to go ahead and take one contract here, and I'm going to put a stop at line 5. And as soon as we get a zigzag, if we get a zigzag, we're going to tighten our stop. Almost kissed it, not quite. There you go. There you go. All right, so now as this is zigzagging, keep in mind you want to take some coin right here too. That's at your low. Let's see if it gets it. It got it, so you're good to go. Now just watch for any kind of stair step to get out of this trade. Put your stop right there. Everybody see how that works? Notice that you got a lower high on that. This is totally key to it. If it's going to stair step down, it's got to get this, okay? But you can always draw on your charts and you can see, for instance, I've got a low here and a high here and a lower low. So that is my line in the sand long short right this very moment. See it right here? Right there at 56.90. We don't even care about fibs right now, right? Let's go ahead and put our line back on. That's our line in the sand long short. Let's see what it does. What do you think? Does that look like a continued downtrend to you? It could roll over right here. Keep in mind, it could easily roll over right here. Okay, that is your line in the sand long short, ABC type move, maybe even ABCDE actually a little bit, but that is your line in the sand long short, or this one is. Okay, And if that's the case, then it's breaking it. So could you box this like Charles did, line 5, and we'd have to put our stop. It's not really swinging. I don't like this one as much, but I think I put my stop just below line 3. Let's see what it did. Not in it yet. It's still not in it, so it didn't go up. So you're still not in it, and it's still heading down so far. All right, so there's no long trade, right? Because even though it broke line and Sandlong short, it didn't break this one. That's your a little bit bigger one. See how small these are? Like right here and here and here. It's a little bit bigger right here. That's a higher low, though. So let me ask you a quick question. By looking at this chart right this very second, where is your line in Sandlong short? Anybody? 56.90 and a quarter. You can tell if you draw your lightning. Let me show you. See your lightning, your high, your low, your higher high. Now you've got a higher low, supposedly. Okay, so this may be a new low, but this is still going to be a 1, 2, 3, a lower low. You could have shorted it, right? But let's see if possible. That higher low. See that higher low? Now, if you get a higher low again, I think I'd box this puppy this time around. Line 5. There you go. That's the way to look for that. See how you can see that? Even though this did a little zigzag right here, this is actually like a thrust. I'll just make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. They're not as ambiguous as you think. You know, a lot of times they'll show you right where to get in. Not always, unfortunately, and sometimes they move them a little bit quicker too. And when they move them quick, you got to stand down for a bit. All right, so let's just draw this. Come on. So this is kind of your little 1, 2, 3, right? So when it breaks this, you're actually heading up. That's your break. Now, if you took the break and it didn't go up, you know, like 10 ticks, then put your stop right back there or jump back in it. But remember, we like to actually break them and then break them again. Even if it's not a big break, like say a bar above and starts oscillating around the line, then take it. But in a case like this, you were just looking for a higher low. Okay? That's that trend change, everyone. I mean, if you'll learn to see this over and over and over, you'll make money in your trading because it just happens over and over. You know? Let's see if we can figure it out again, just real quick. All right, let's get rid of lightning. We don't need it right now. But let's see if we can draw our line in Sandlong short as it's progressing. Well, Dewey, on your question, you can always wait for the pullback, but you're not always going to get it. That's the problem with these, is because they're really a leg one type move, and they're just a lot of times just going to leave you in the lurch. You know, you could at least look for a higher low. You know, like if you saw this happen, there's your 1, there's your 2, there's your 3, then look for a higher low. Let's see. So what object trader should I use to take the long short line when it breaks? Well, you could actually use practically any of it as far as that goes. You know, if I saw this happening like here, for instance, let's say that this was happening, and that happened in about a minute, it looks like to me, right through there. But you did have to wait for it to at least do 1, 2, and then break. So if you, now keep in mind that when this was already preset, when this had already done this, and it had pulled back, where's your swing that you could put your stop if you took the break of this right here? It's not my favorite stop, but it's right there because you don't know what's going to happen once it broke that, if you're going to get a higher low or not. But let's face it, if it was to break this, you could short it, you know, but it didn't. You're constantly looking for, on a long trend, a low, high, higher, low, higher, high, and so on. Let's see if we can get another trend change type at all. Line in Sandlong short. Where do you think your line in Sandlong short right now is on this chart? Anybody? I can see it already. If you can't, you really need to go over this webinar until you can, because you got a high, you got a low, you got a higher high. That is your line in Sandlong short right there. Did it go higher? We'll find out. It's a higher low so far. Now, right this very moment, you got a high, you got a low, you got a lower high. So you got a high, a low, a higher high. So this is your line in the Sandlong short right there at 93 and a quarter. This is your conservative one right here. So if you box this and they do break it, then that would be a short. But it would be a breakout short. But you would be looking for, quote, leg one. Let's see what it did. Bounced off predictor. That's a high, low, lower, high. That's right at your line in the sand long short. That's definitely your line in the sand long short. What do you think, anybody? And if you took it, where would you put your stop? Well, when I see something like this, I'm not going to put my stop way up here. And I'm not even going to put my stop here on this little swing. See this little thrust retrace? I would put my stop a close above that. And the reason is because that's a swing that should hold on a resistance kiss, if we're wrong. So let's take the trade short, and let's just see what it does. Now that tried to kiss. That did kiss. Perfect kiss. See it? So you're still okay on the trade. And boom. See how you can see line in the sand, long shorts on your chart. And you can draw them before they ever happen, because in the room all the time, I draw them. And if I miss them, I quickly see charts. And if I see something changing, I get those lines drawn because I see them in my head really quick. Now that one happened to be perfect, Dewey, for you, because see, it did break and kiss. But keep in mind that you can also do something like this. What if it breaks and then starts kind of trying to head back up if you just box it in to take it short if it breaks the box? You can do that also. But see, when phantoms don't work, everyone, is when they break these line and sand long short. And you can see why, because if you draw lightning 3, you'll actually see that had a high, a low, a higher high, higher low, higher high. So where's your line and sand long short? It's right where I show it, right? So if it breaks this, you're no longer heading up. This is so close that I'd probably short this one instead myself. But still, it shorted also. And then once it starts stair-stepping down, you start stair-stepping with it. Now, when they drop that much like that, I'm very leery of not tightening my stop like crazy, because that looks like a shotgun right before news. Okay? And this is just ESI. And by the way, I don't trade ESI. I trade mostly oil and gold. And I call quite a few trades on ESI. But you've got to learn to see these line and sand long shorts. High, low, lower, high, line and sand long short. High, low, higher, low, higher, high. Takes out the swing. That's your left side. And if it takes it out, it's heading down. Okay? What about this one? Low, high, lower, low. It would have to take out that swing right there to have ever headed up. See the low, the high, the lower, low? It never did. Here it did, though. Low, high, higher, low, higher, high. Right through there. Gave you a higher low and took off. Okay? And then if you miss a trade like this is a beautiful stair-stepping midband, right? So could you actually go ahead and do Fibonacci's on this and see where your next trade is? And with that much of a move, I would probably be looking for a 38. See, when you have large moves, you can look for 38. When you have these little bitty stinky moves that don't do, anything, you're going to get hosed when you do 38. But that's a pretty good move from 99.50 all the way down to 83. That's 17 handles, 16 point something. Let's see. If it goes down further, you just keep moving your Fibonacci. Whoa, that's pretty good. Okay, now you've got a high, low, lower, high, lower, low, lower, high, lower, low. So you could also do your fib from here or here even. But keep in mind that when you do a complete fib like this, you're looking for 38. If you did this one, you're probably looking for 50. If you did this one, you're looking for 61. Let's see where if it does give us trade, it may just keep on trucking, but let's see what it did. That's a pretty good area right there. What do you think? 38%. Bar goes down. What do you think? Where would you put your stop in a case like that? Anybody? I'll tell you where I put mine. You can't put it all the way up here at this swing. That's too high. But where's resistance on this chart? Right this very second on the left of the chart. It's right there. So could you put it a close above that swing? And you wouldn't get hurt real bad. Now keep in mind, if this was to bounce and you get in at 86.50, you're going to have to give them to 89.25. Let's see if it did it. Lower high. And there you go. Now where could you put your stop? Right there and even right here. See that little swing it's trying to make? It's not really a swing, it's just a consolidation of 3 bars. But that does make a lightning 1. Okay? See how that works? Draw on your charts and you'll do pretty good in your trading. Anybody have any questions? And keep in mind, all we really did was talk mostly about line in the sand, but we also got a few mid-band trades by drawing on our charts. You know, when you get these little bitty tiny thrusts, you know, you don't want to use 38%. You know, and keep in mind, it's all about stair-stepping mid-bands. I've said that a billion times, maybe not a billion, that's a lot. But see how this went from long to short to stair-stepping? That's a good trade. Okay, and then you get a phantom trade, but that was also a breakout up. Then if you change trends again, you didn't get a long trade because guess what? Our Fibonacci's was way too low. So then they broke line in the sand long shorts right here and you went down. You're always looking for a mid-band trade, but keep in mind when they break line in the sand long shorts, like right through there and right through here when they broke it, that's heading down, not up. Because the definition again is higher lows is a long, lower highs is a short. Okay? Let's see, James. What question were you asking? I'll be happy to answer that. Was it the same situation on gold last night at 1926? Let me look at, on gold, let's look. 1926 would have been 7:26 my time. So this was at 5 o'clock last night, right here. And so you had a perfect mid-band trade right after 5 p.m. And how was the fib on it? Looks like a 38 to me. Let's see, but keep in mind the first time into mid-band after trend change is pretty good. Yeah, that's 38. But it did have a predictor too. So if I remember right, I shorted that last night because I got pretty decent little trade on gold after the market opened. Let's see, I am new. I was just saying that I have lots of questions in general, but they will all eventually be answered. Oh, yeah. And what I try to do is teach this over and over and over because these trade types that we take are the same. I mean, you know, looking at this chart right here, to give an example, where's your line in the sand long short on this chart right now? Well, it's right here, right? And it's right here. So if they stay below that, then they're heading down. Let's see what they did. We've got real data on, so this is actually what it is right now. But that's your line in the sand long short. You'll see what it does later. See, it's kissing resistance. So is this going to break to the upside? Well, this time of night, I don't think I'd be trading it, but that is your line in the sand long short. See how they rejected it so far? 1926, you're talking about last night, though, not now. You're talking about, let's see, 5 o'clock Sunday night. Because this was actually, let's see, that was March 10th right there. That's when the market busted up. And you had your first trade right here. But you're saying 7:26 my time? You're talking about at night? But look how beautiful this still works out, everyone. Look at this, big thrust, mid-band trade. You know, another mid-band trade here. You might have held the original one. Because again, I don't like 38%, and I bet that's 38%. See, 38, I like 50s. Last night, 309. 7:26 right in through here. Well, you went definitely high, low, higher high, so this is your line in the sand long short at the time at 7-ish. So it did kind of break it, kissed it and rolled again. That's your line in the sand long short again, so there's a 10-tick trade up. And then you broke your line in the sand long short again, so see how that holds across there? Yeah, definitely. You had some good trades. I traded this till just after church last night, which was at 7:30. I think is when the guy got through preaching last night. Was right in through here. So if I remember right, this is 5 o'clock right here. And I'm pretty sure I got that mid-band trade. I'd have to look at my deal, and it's on the other computer. But that looks like a trade I'd take for sure. Mid-band trade. And see, that looks like about a 61% retracement. Thrust, retrace, 61. Last night at Yeah, last night 309. And keep in mind another thing too. If you'll get in the habit of just scalping these things, and drawing on your chart for the next trade, you'll do pretty well. Because see how this line right over here, when they broke it, say they broke that line in San Long short and they kissed it and they rolled. Where's your line in San Long short here? It's right across there at the time, and it's also right across there. Let's see what it did. There's right across there. See how it kissed? And then it broke line in the sand. See your low, your high, your higher low. There's a long. And over, they just do the same thing if you draw on your charts. And keep in mind, you've got to be watching when it happens, because you don't want to chase it way up here. You want to get this trade when it breaks line in San Long short. Okay? All right, does that work for everybody? And keep in mind, we'll do this, and this is done every day in the room, just continually. Look at oil this morning, to give an example, and then we're going to have to wrap because I get up pretty early. But here's an example right here. We opened the room at 7:30-ish, right across this area right here. There was your line in San Long short right there. You could clearly see it. You had a high, low, much higher high. They broke it, they kissed it, and they rolled. If you missed it, there was your mid-band trade, and I called that out too. Mid-band trades are, especially if they kiss these predictors, they're worth their weight in gold. Okay? But yeah, if you draw on your charts, you'll see time and time again, where's your line in San Long short? Low, high, lower, low, double bottom. See how it kissed it and rolled? It's amazing. You draw on, I didn't even know where that was going, obviously, so we just drew the line. It's the way they work. Remember, I even said this morning that was kind of sloppy, but what were they doing? They were checking the line in San Long short, and they rejected it. This would have been a better entry because it was a lower high, and if you took it, though, keep in mind that this is where you would have probably been faked in, but would you have been taken out on that? I wouldn't have been, because your swing was over here. You'd have to put your stop just above that swing, couple 3 ticks, something like that, and then if it just rolls, you're happy camper. Okay, I'll go ahead and wrap tonight. Thanks, everybody, for coming. This was recorded, and just learn to see these on your chart, and you'll be amazed at how much better your trading will be. And quit trading so much. I know everybody, and it's not like bowling. You don't just want to go and just bowl and bowl and bowl and, drink at the, the whole bowling deal, where you just stay all night and into 2 o'clock in the morning. Trade a few trades and then quit. If you got this trade on oil this morning and this trade on oil this morning, you could have been done for the day. You didn't have to just keep trading. And what happens is too many people do keep trading, and then they give it back up. Because then, without looking at their line in San Long short, they're going long, they're going short, they're going long, they're going short. Instead of looking on the left, low, high, did it ever take it out? Got a lower low. That's it. Now it got a high. Same low, still doesn't count. High, much lower low. This is your line in San Long short now. See what I mean? And aggressively, even way down here. See what I mean? But see, those will fake you. Got to be careful with your little bitty swings. It's more about the thrust retrace, and see, that would be a good rollover, as a matter of fact. Okay? All right, hope this helped everybody, because remember, we're just price action traders, and we do this every single night, every single day, that is, and we just continually do the same thing over and over and over. Okay? We'll do it again tomorrow morning. Thanks, everybody. See you in the morning. Bye.